Welcome back to Chiefs Live, brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers as we continue our path to prime time in 2012, talking Chiefs NFL draft with Lance Zierlein of the SidelineView.com, Houston Chronicle, and the Big Show 790 AM in Houston. Lance, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, it's good to be on, Josh.
I tell you what, you were one of the first guys on the Sideline View in your two-round mock to have Ryan Tannehill mocked to the Chiefs at number 11. This was a few weeks ago. You had that posted. Number one, why do you think he may fall to the Chiefs at 11, and do you think that's a viable pick for them?
Well, it really depends on how desperate a team is to trade up. I obviously didn't think Jake Locker was worth being drafted where he was. I thought Ponder was drafted too high, but that's the nature of the beast. We already know teams are going to overdraft quarterbacks, and so that's going to happen. And Tannehill probably won't make it to 11. In my mock, though, what happened with me is that I got to number 8 where everyone's plugging Tannehill in, and I looked at Miami and I said, well, Matt Moore finished the season pretty well last year. He did pretty well. You added David Garrard over there as a veteran. You could add Tannehill there if you want, but they are a mess at wide receiver at number 8. And in my mock, I had Justin Blackmon falling and available at number 8. And I know a lot of teams philosophically are against adding a wide receiver that high unless they feel like they're elite. But that's a team that really is desperate right now for wide receiver help. And so once I plugged in Blackmon there, I had Tannehill sliding. Now, the reality is the team may trade up and try to grab him at number 9, number 10, or maybe even number 11. But with the Chiefs, I know they've said they'd like to have some competition for Matt Castle. And, yeah, you've got Brady Quinn on the roster. That's fine and good. But I just wouldn't rule out if he only likes a player as a football player and thinks he has a chance to be special. I certainly wouldn't rule out any position because the Belichick school of evaluation revolves around finding great football players or players who can become great. And you don't worry about who's in front of them. You just take good football players. So if they had a high grade on a player like Tannehill, I don't think Castle or Quinn being there is going to preclude them at all from taking a look at that position. But, to be honest with you, Josh, in my updated mock that I'm working on right now, I'm going to have Tannehill going before that because I just don't think he's going to fall outside of the top 10.
If he were to fall out of the top 10, what do you think the trade activity would be if he were at the Chiefs 11? If the Chiefs, and Scott Pioli's been known to trade back, that whole New England valuing draft picks, getting maybe an extra guy in a third or a second or whatever you could get. What do you think the market would be if he did fall to the Chiefs at 11, if the Chiefs were looking to trade that pick?
That's interesting because Flynn, I think Matt Flynn takes Seattle out of the equation. And not that Seattle might move up one spot, might not, but I think Seattle's probably out of the equation now with Flynn. I think you have obviously 2 other teams in Indy and Washington are off the board right now. And if Cleveland passes on them once at 4, or if they like Tannehill, they could decide to trade back from 4 a couple of spots, or they could look to use their second draft pick in the first round and some additional picks to move up and come get Tannehill again if they decided to keep their pick at number 4. So I definitely think there would be interest in adding Tannehill via trade. The question is, who are the trade partners? I mean, who has the additional picks to come up and get that? I really don't know that you're going to see Scott Pioli super excited about trading back into the mid-20s or somewhere back into 22. I think he'd probably like to stay in the mid to late teens if possible, so that he could still target a nose or a defensive end to plug into that defense if he so chooses, because that's a pretty good area to find the positions that you're looking for.
In your first mock, you have David DeCastro, who is very popular with the Chiefs fan base and probably one of the safer picks on this board. Fits a lot of things the Chiefs do schematically and is kind of the offensive line that you would think Scott Pioli might be leaning toward. You have him going number 14 to Arizona. Would 11, in your opinion, be too high to draft an offensive guard?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like 13, 14 is probably too high to ever draft an offensive guard, just based on value of the guard position, what you can get from the guards, what you expect to get, and where you can get those same characteristics. I think it's always been the case. A lot of teams philosophically refuse to draft safeties and guards inside the top 20. They don't believe in it. And I think Arizona is probably the earliest that DeCastro could go at 13. But even at 13, the question is going to be if we need offensive line help, do we go get a tackle, or do we get a little safer pick in a guard who might not have as much impact on our pass protection? I think Chiefs at 11, I definitely think that's too early. But if you were to tell me they were to trade back into the early 20s, late teens, I wouldn't be shocked to see them target a guard. Logan Mankins was the pick of the New England Patriots. That was the very back end of the first. And that guy has been a hammer for them for years and years. So, to me, guards, a lot of times, are some of the best values that you can find late in the first round, at times in the early second, because of how long they can play and at what kind of level. The Chiefs know that full well with the great guard play they've had over the years. But at the same time, man, that's tough action, drafting a guard and paying him number 11 money. Even with the CBA leveling out some of those salaries, Josh, you just won't see that very often.
Right. The favorite to go to Kansas City, it seems right now, is Boston College linebacker Luke Eakly. He's a guy you have going number 12 to Seattle, just behind the Chiefs. And I'm interested, you say he's a guy that, you know, that all the personnel men love, that you talk to, that watch him on film. He's clean. He's a solid player, but you just like him. You don't love him. Can you explain your analysis on Luke Eakly?
You know, to me, Josh, it gets down to taste of what you like in your linebackers. I like my linebackers to be take-on players a little bit more. I understand that's not really necessarily how all the teams coach it down, how the game is played. There were some instances where I'd watch him in games and on tape, and I'd see a guy who wasn't the most physical player, avoided some contact, which got him pushed around when offensive lineman got up on him. He had a hard time dislodging. I thought his instincts are great, and instincts, if you've got great instincts and you get downhill quickly, you don't have to worry quite as much about having offensive linemen, plug you up. You're the one beating into the spot anyway. But yeah, I see Dante Hightower, who I think bumps a little bit more. I see a guy like Michael Kendricks, who I think can be had in the second round, an inside linebacker from Cal. I just kind of like that value more. I think what Michael Kendricks brings to the table is not going to be that far off from Luke Eakly, to be honest with you, but you'll have to pay a lot more money for Luke Eakly at inside linebacker. So I like him. I just haven't been as in love with him during the process as most evaluators. And I'm talking about guys on teams that I really respect. I'm talking about scouts who I've respected for years, and they all like him. So I certainly don't have a lot of confidence in my evaluation of him, but from my personal standpoint of taste, he hasn't really excited me so far when I've watched him.
Lance, one of the Chiefs' biggest needs heading this draft remains nose tackle. It's something the Chiefs have really just kind of found a one-year plug-and-play guy each year that Scott Pioli has been here since 2009. With that said, Dontari Poe had great combine workouts, but I'd say fans here in Kansas City are a little hesitant with him because obviously the tape doesn't match the hype, or the big P word, the potential. What's your view on Dontari Poe? I know you've got him going right now, number 9 to Carolina. Have you bought into all that combine hype with this guy?
No, I really haven't, but make no mistake about it, I think he's going to be drafted high because of his potential, the P word. He's got the size, he's got the feet, he's got the quickness of size, he's got the potential, and somebody's going to feel like we can coach him up, we can get the most out of him. I just really have a hard time buying into a guy with that type of physical ability who's not dominating Conference USA competition. It just doesn't make sense to me. There needs to be a level of dominance there from snap to snap. It's one thing not to be coached properly, or maybe not take coaching, maybe your technique is bad. It's another when you don't take your sheer physical strength. I'll put it to you, you're a basketball guy. We've seen guys like Shaq. Shaq knew early in his career, I'm bigger than everybody, and I'm going to impose my will with my size. You love those guys because you know that they're going to take what their physical, natural, God-given ability, and they're going to do something with it. And that ability just happens to be size and quickness. Then you see other bigs who stand outside and want to shoot threes. Well, they're wasting the natural advantage they have. And I feel like Dontari Poe has wasted a lot of that natural advantage that he has. So I think he'll be drafted high. And Pioli might be the guy to pull that trigger as well, because I think he can play nose or the 3-4 defensive end, the 5 technique spot. But honestly, I would rather wait until second or third round and go look at a guy like Josh Chapman from Alabama. He's a two-gap defensive tackle. That's what he does. He's a nose. You're not going to move him around easily. He can hold up at the point of attack. He's game ready because he comes from Nick Saban's scheme. To me, you start talking about value. I got potential here, or I got a guy that I feel a lot more comfortable with where his floor is in Josh Chapman from Alabama. So I have a funny feeling that he could go to the Chiefs, no doubt. But honestly, I don't know, because of his film not matching up. I'm not sure that Pioli is going to want to buy into him quite like they did with Tyson Jackson, who also had some film issues and really hasn't panned out to what you expected from him based on his size.
Now, speaking of Tyson Jackson, you have him and Glenn Dorsey, two LSU alums at the defensive end post, and Romeo Crennel's 3-4 defense. And a dark horse pick to the Chiefs also seems to be another LSU defensive lineman in Michael Brockers. Do you see that being a possible pick for the Chiefs, and what do you think about Brockers?
Absolutely. I think Brockers would be a great fit. And honestly, I still feel like I love that Dorsey has battled and fought and made him turn himself into a player, even though he's clearly out of position in the Chiefs 3-4. I think he's a much better fit as a 3 technique in the 4-3. But you look at Michael Brockers. Michael Brockers is not a pass rusher. But what he is a guy who plays with better power than he showed at the combine. The numbers they kind of belie the fact that he plays with a good deal of power. He is a two-gapper. He can set the edge. I think he would be a fantastic fit from a size, strength, pedigree standpoint for Kansas City at that position at the 5 technique. I feel much more comfortable with Brockers than with Poe. I think his ceiling may not be as high, but his floor is much, much higher. And to me, he would make a lot more sense. And if I did something like that, I would probably consider dealing Glenn Dorsey to a 43 team looking for an inside one-gap player who can get up the field and disrupt. That's probably what I would like to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. If they took Brockers, I think most Chiefs fans would anticipate a trade market opening up for Glenn Dorsey. In fact, there's been trade rumblings involving him for the past few years. Nothing concrete or serious, I think, but I think it's always been an option of a 4-3 team to possibly acquire Dorsey. And here in Kansas City, he has been the most active defensive lineman for this team. He is one of the few guys that plays in sub-package and base sets on that defensive line, so he has had a lot of value for the Chiefs. Lance Zierlein of the SidelineView.com is with us on Chiefs Live, brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers. Lance, the thing I like about your mock draft on the Sideline View is you go 2 rounds, and in the second round you have the Chiefs taking cornerback Trumaine Johnson out of Montana. I think that a lot of fans have written off cornerback as a possible draft possibility for the Chiefs in the second, third, or fourth round, mainly because Stanford Routt has come in to replace Brandon Carr. I don't think that's a good thing to assume, because the way Romeo Crennel plays sub-package defense, there's almost 50% of the snaps now. He's got 5 DBs out there. What do you like about Trumaine Johnson and then how he would fit into Romeo Crennel's defense?
Let me address cornerback philosophy first for a second. I think one of the biggest mistakes that fans make is that they'll see a guy drafted in the second or third round and they assume, or a free agent coming in, and they say, okay, that's it. You'll just have to ride or die with that guy for a while. There's no other, we'll just have to see how it works out. At what other point do you do that? In baseball, do they only have 5 pitchers they come into camp with and nobody can earn a spot in a 5-man rotation? That's ludicrous. You have competition, and I think one of the things that Scott Pioli understands, based on his background with Belichick, who has a great understanding of defensive backs, is you never know where your talent or your starters are going to come from. You never know when you're going to miss on a guy. Stanford Routt is a known commodity, quantity, and that's great, and he has fantastic speed. I don't think he's the be-all, end-all. I'm not even sure that he's any kind of an upgrade from Carr. As a matter of fact, I'd tell you he's not an upgrade. So I think one of the things that you need to do is throw another cornerback into the mix, and you have to have 3 corners at this day and age. You must have 3 corners who can play, because, as you mentioned, the sub-packages that you have to have available, it gives you more flexibility defensively. It gives you the ability to match up. Trumaine Johnson, over 6 foot, over 200 pounds, physical, has a great nose for the ball. A little bit, he's got a little off-the-field stuff you have to be okay with, but I don't think it's going to be something that knocks a bunch of people off the draft board, or knocks him off the draft board of a lot of teams. But his ability to play physically and to have that nose for the ball to make plays and potentially even play some safety, to me, makes him a great pick in the second round. I've got scout friends who handle defensive backs who say that he's a better player and will be a better pro than Janoris Jenkins. So because he's long, because he's physical, and because he has that nose for the ball to either play in a cover two zone scheme where he sits and reads the quarterback, or maybe even in a straight man-to-man, I think that's one of the reasons Romeo Crennel would love him. He's got the ability to be physical, and I think that matters to Romeo Crennel.
To add to your point on cornerbacks, it's worth noting, and these guys haven't exactly panned out the way I think most fans would hope, but Scott Pioli is taking a corner in each of his 3 drafts in Kansas City. In 2009, he took Donald Washington, who's since moved to safety, Javier Arenas in a nickel role in 2010, and last year Jaleel Brown out of Colorado. So he's obviously been trying to stockpile young talent at cornerback, and you mentioned guys 2nd, 5th round. Look at the 2008 draft. Brandon Flowers, 2nd-round pick for the Chiefs. Brandon Carr, a 5th-round pick for the Chiefs, and they've been the mainstay up until what's going to be the 2012 season. Speaking of mid-rounds, Lance, running back, the Chiefs have Jamal Charles, they have Peyton Hillis, they have Dexter McCluster. However, they still have room for addition, in my opinion, especially not knowing exactly how Charles will bounce back from that left ACL injury. Who do you like in the mid-rounds as a possibility for running back? Obviously, there's the kid out of Boise State. You've got Turbin from Utah State. Is there anybody that sticks out to you as a real good possibility as a running back in those middle rounds?
Well, I think what you have to do is decide what do you want to go after. You got the banger in Hillis. You got the utility man in Dexter. So you're going to look at Jamal Charles. Not sure what you're going to get from Jamal Charles. Then find a guy who might play like Jamal Charles, so that you don't have duplication from one back to the next with the Charles type and the Peyton Hillis type. And one guy that you could look for, and I'd say in later rounds maybe, would be Michael Smith. He's a running back out of Utah State, tested off the charts, a phenomenal athlete. He's a little bit limited, but he's a great value because you'll get him probably beyond the 4th round, play some special teams for you, have some home run hitting ability, with the ability to take it to the house. I don't think the Chiefs would look at a running back within the first 2 rounds, and I think Doug Martin from Boise State, as you mentioned, I think he goes in the second. I know a couple teams that really, really like Doug Martin, feel like he's the 2nd best back in this draft. So I don't think he makes it out of the second. I think Bernard Pierce is another guy that if he lasted into, I'd prefer some type of trade back scenario and get him probably, or maybe even sit tight in the 4th round, and hopefully he falls to you there. If you want a guy with the ability to maybe get you 8 carries in a game but can play on sub packages and special teams, then Isaiah Pete from Cincinnati, if he were to fall to you, that would be a guy that I think you could look at and really concentrate on Dexter being more of just a slot receiver and a little bit less of a running back. Worried about running back. Robert Turbin, another guy, once again, Utah State. 2 running backs from Utah State are going to be drafted in this year's draft. This guy came off an ACL last year and still ripped off some big runs, scored a lot of touchdowns, and his best football is probably ahead of him as he is playing his 2nd year removed from that ACL injury. Slows down a little more than you'd like for being a one-cut runner, but has some unbelievable burst. A little bit high cut, but I think he's another guy in the mid-round that the Chiefs might see some value in him in the middle rounds. Could also play special teams, which is very, very important if you're looking for a guy who can be your 3rd running back.
Lance Erline of the SidelineView.com breaking down draft possibilities for us. Lance, before I let you go, you've got another website that's recently new, and it's pretty interesting. It's fantasy football meets NFL draft. I've taken a look at it. I think it's going to be pretty addictive. It's playthedraft.com. Can you explain to our fans and listeners exactly what this new concept is you have?
Yeah, it's a great concept. I know Kuiper got involved with it because he loved it. I got involved with it. We always talk about a guy's draft stock is going up or down. And the 2 guys who created this game, they said, well, let's turn it into a stock market. Let's take every NFL prospect and create stock prices for them that go up and down from the Senior Bowl all the way through the NFL draft, and wherever they allow you to buy or sell these players anytime you like, and their stocks are going up and down, and your portfolio will change. If you buy a guy low and sell him high, let's say you got Dontari Poe at the very beginning, he shot way up, and everyone was talking about him being in the top 10. You sold him, and now some people are cooling on him a little bit because his tape isn't as good. But then you played it just like the stock market. You bought low and you sold high. And then wherever a guy gets drafted, whoever you have in your portfolio of players, wherever they get drafted, it's worth a certain monetary value. And whoever has the most at the end of the game, they're the winner. So it's a really cool game because you can kind of test yourself against other amateur draftniks and even the experts and say, I think this guy's going to be red hot, or I think this guy's going to get drafted higher on draft day, or I think this guy's going to run fast at the combine, so I'm going to buy him now, and then after the combine, when he runs fast and his stock shoots up, I'm going to sell him after that. That's the kind of the buy and the sell and the stock market approach that really, really works. I'm updating my mock draft personally that I put in there, and the stock prices are determined by mock drafts of 37 draft experts from around the internet, and so it's changing every single week. You've got a new set of stock prices. So if you guys are interested, I'll let all your listeners who reply to me put you in a league absolutely free. Give you a free league to play in with the Sideline View. If you like it, you can sign up for your a group league with your friends. You can play in the Mel Kiper Global Exchange. But just send me an email at sidelineview@gmail.com. Sidelineview@gmail.com. Let me know you heard it on Josh's show, and I'll give you an invite for absolutely free into a league.
Very cool. I think a lot of people take up that offer. I'll already say I've made my value picks a few weeks ago just playing around on the site. Washington's Alameda Ta'amu. I'm hoping his stock shoots up. And then a favorite of mine in the Senior Bowl, George Iloka of Boise State, was another one that I picked and hope he'll go a little bit higher. It's a really cool concept, and I think a lot of fans, especially those that are super into the draft, will definitely enjoy.
By the way, my man Russ Land, who I respect a lot, former NFL scout, he's got Ta'amu going to the Chiefs at number 11.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that yesterday. I like that.
That's a player right there.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll go that high, but I tell you what, I think he definitely fits the Chiefs' needs, and I was hoping to see his stock shoot up a few weeks ago when I made that pick on playthedraft.com. So I hope you're right, or I hope Russ is right. I hope he does end up going at 11. Lance, thanks a bunch for breaking down draft possibilities for us. As always, man, right on the money.
Anytime. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Josh. Good luck to the Chiefs.
All right, take care.